Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Insider's Guide to the Galaxy. You know the drill. Where you come from in the chat. How's your observing been? How are you doing? How was your long weekend? Are we all too tired from Turkey to go observing, or whatever you ended up doing on your long weekend? It's been very
we've got a
cold.
full moon.
Sorry?
The moon's been full too, so that
Mm-hmm.
lets us keep the telescope indoors. And let us know if anybody's wearing any dolphin apparel. Like
Did you get the memo that we sent out? Hello. It dropped off in my area, quite cold lately. Oh, just a reminder, if you want to send a message to everyone, to change the to everyone above your message as well. We also have a very well-writing people to file in. This is a very exciting last episodes of our Messier minutes. So stay tuned. We'll finished them off today. Hello, everyone.
I believe it's also our 60th Insider's Guide on YouTube, at least in the playlist.
If it's in the playlist, then that's our 60th episode. Yay! Oh my gosh, lots of milestones today. So thank you all for joining us. And we'll be doing a deep dive into Delphinus today. However, I did not have any dolphin apparel. So unfortunately, you get a beaver. Not even close. Oh, nice to hear you visited the center of the universe during your visit to Victoria. That's awesome. Okay, well, everybody else can file in, but let's not waste any time getting into it. I'm going to pass this off to Chris and let you deep dive into the constellation of Dolphin.
Yes, thank you and welcome. So I thought it's kind of fun to take a closer look at certain constellations from time to time. And the Dolphin is a favorite of a lot of people. Even since I posted on social media notice about this session, I've had notes come in saying that's my favorite constellation and things like that. So it's cool. And what's great about it is it's a nice, bright little constellation. It's visible with, your unaided eyes, and you can even, grab your telescopes and look at almost the whole thing with your telescopes. And then if you've got with your binoculars, and then if you've got a telescope, then you can zoom in and explore some of the little treats in it. It's got a sprinkling of everything, and what's nice is it's not overwhelming, so you can actually see everything if you wanted to, and not get overwhelmed the way you would if you were trying to catch all the deep sky objects in Cygnus or one of the other constellations. So let's dive in. I'll give you a little bit of background, then I'll show you my stellarium screen, some of the special features of it. So generally in the sky, the constellation of Delphinus is up in the sky now. It's been up for a couple of months now, and it'll last all the way until January. So because of the earlier sunsets, and the sun goes to bed earlier in fall, so that actually lets the sky get darker earlier, and it lets us see some of those late summer or early autumn constellations a little longer into the year than otherwise we would. So let me just bring up a picture of it here, and I'll share my screen. Here we go. All right. So what I've got here on the sky, I've got a view facing south at around, here we go, around 8 o'clock in the evening tonight. And if you look about more than halfway up the sky, there's the zenith. So Cygnus is up there at the zenith. Here we've got a little patch of constellations that sit kind of dipping into the summer triangle, which is sitting here. So Deneb, Vega, Altair. And we've got the little set of constellations of Vulpecula, Sagitta. So Vulpecula is the fox, Sagitta is the arrow, Delphinus the dolphin, and Equuleus the little horse. And then we have Pegasus off to the side. So you can see that the constellation of the Dolphin is in the center of this little group, and it's surrounded by Pegasus on the east, Vulpecula and Sagitta Aquila the eagle on the west, and then sort of touches into Aquarius and then Aquilus to round it out. Now, what's neat is the constellation, this is this yellowish greenish line, that's the celestial equator. And that means that the dolphin is sitting within about a fist and a half, about 14 degrees or so of the celestial equator, which means it's visible all over the globe. So every society of humans around the world have been able to look up and see this constellation. The only place it's not really visible at all is Antarctica, but you know, people haven't really been. So it's really been able to become part of the culture, the sky culture of a lot of different communities over time. So I'll give you a couple of little historical stories with it. I'll just bring up the art here. So in Greek mythology, which is most of where our Western sky culture is based upon, there's a story where the god Poseidon was pining for a woman. He was wanting to fall in love with this woman. And the friendly dolphin enlisted the help of a friendly in the heart. And as a result of the success of this, you know, love connection, the dolphin in a place story. It's actually based on a real live person who was a famous 7th century musician and poet named Arion of Lesbos. And he was taking a sea voyage back to Corinth, which is in the Aegean, and had to go on board because the sailor on board wanted to rob his wealth that he had accumulated during his travels and collecting funds as he performed for people. So a dolphin actually helped him get to shore, saved his life, and as a result, the god Apollo was said to have put the heroic mammal in the heavens, right next to, or in the vicinity of, Arion's lyre, his harp, which is also the constellation of Lyra up here in the sky. In fact, the historian Ovid actually maybe Delphinus was connected to the musician, that there were actually 9 stars in the constellation, one for each muse in mythology. You know, that's just one of the stories. In Persian astronomy, I'll bring up a picture of from the book. So this is a picture of one of the pages of the where is it here? The book of fixed stars by a famous Persian astronomer al-Sufi, and he as viewed from the heavens looking down onto the stars towards the earth, and the other looking up into the sky from the ground. So they're mirror images of each other. That's why I've got 2 versions of here.
Sorry, Chris, just to let you know, you're kind of breaking up a little bit on our end. I turned off your video, but I don't know if it's helping too much.
Okay. I'll just go a little bit slower and see if that works.
Okay.
So far, so good.
I'll let you know if we miss a huge chunk. Apologies, everyone, for the technical difficulties.
Thanks a lot. I'm actually wondering what the problem is. Maybe folks in the neighborhood are watching streaming. So yeah, this is a page out of al-Sufi's book. You can see here's the red dots are the major stars of Delphinus. So he actually depicted the constellation as Ṣūrat al-Dālfīn, or the dolphin, naturally. And then we have Chinese astronomy. They saw the stars of the dolphin. They used it a different way. So I'll just bring up the star lore here in Stellarium. Go into the Chinese astronomy here, and you can see so these were the good gourd and the rod. So the little shape of the head was the good gourd, and the rest of the stars were the rotten gourd. The Burongs of Australia, they saw the diamond shape of Delphinus as the fish shape. That's also true of many of the South Pacific cultures, the Maori and folks like that. Actually, going back to regular look, I mean, to me, you could even picture the dolphin shape as being the head of a kiwi if you're from New Zealand. So there's the head of the bird and then his long pointy beak heading down. So I'm surprised that wasn't one of the options. Because is asterism, the Hindu astrologers and people that were developing the Hindu calendar denoted this as a Dhanistha, one of the 27 nakashtras, which are the lunar mansions. Lunar mansions you can think of as a zodiac for the moon, where the moon sort of visits each set of stars each night of the month. And finally, some folks refer to the head of the dolphin as an asterism called Job's coffin. The Arab astronomer al-Biruni actually wrote that some Christian sects saw this set of stars as the Christ's cross. All kinds of different interpretations.
So I'm just going to throw in a link to our World Astronomisms project, because if you even just search in this document this is a collection, you'll learn more about it in a couple episodes from now. We're going to have a special guest on. It's a hint. And it just is different views of the sky from different cultures. And if you look up Delphinus, there's 107 references, and we haven't even covered it all. So if this is interesting to you, I threw in a document that helps you learn more.
That's amazing. All right, cool. So getting into now sort of exploring the different stars that are in the constellation. You know, we've got this in the sky, you're going to look for a diamond. It's actually about 2 or 3 finger widths wide and about a thumb's width high. So if you want to hold your arm up and measure it in the sky. The tail stretches down about the same. So it's about another few finger widths for the tail. So it's quite a small constellation. It's actually ranked 69th out of 88 by area of the constellations in the sky. Sagitta, and that area, by area, I'm referring to the entire red box that surrounds it. So all this territory is deemed to belong to Delphinus. So I'm not just talking about the stars themselves that make up the pattern. Equilius and Sagitta on either side of it, they're actually ranked 86th and 87th out of 88. And the small one of all is Crux, which we don't see in Canada. That's the one that's down under. Now, there was a story that at some point, some of the stars in Equilius were considered part of the Dolphin. But nowadays, you know, we've got the official IAU boundaries published this way, and this is the way it's set up. So as I said, you can see all of the stars of Delphinus, the main stars, with your unaided eyes. At the top, we've got this bright star Alpha Delphini. That's the name Sualokin or Sualosin, if you use the other apps. That would be kind of the top of the head where the blowhole is. And then at the nape of the neck, we've got Beta Delphini. This is the star Rotanev. And you might think, well, those are strange names. Those don't sound like Arabic or some of the other usual terms that we're used to seeing. And that's because these are actually a trick. So what happened was that back in the 19th century, an astronomer who was working with Piazzi in Italy was developing a sky chart, and these stars didn't have proper names. So he actually put these 2 names in, and these are actually his Latinized name backwards. So his name was Nix Venator, and he used those 2 star names almost as a joke to see catch it, and nobody did. So it stuck, and they're still here today. So that's kind of a neat example where whoever makes the maps, you know, gets the benefits of that. All right, so breaking it down a little bit. So Sualoquin or Alpha Delphini is a magnitude 3.85 star. So it's a naked eye star. It's bluish white. It's a B9 class, so that's in that blue, hot bluer end of the spectrum. It's about 240 light years away. And now, here's what's a little bit interesting you want to be careful of. So in stellarium, if you zoom in to this star, you can see how it splits. That's if you use the stellarium deep sky survey image, there's only one star there, but because of the various star catalogs that I've got installed, some of them I installed a while ago, and I don't know whether they've been updated since, but your installation of stellarium might show you that as a double star, and it really isn't. Now that star is double in the sense that it's spectroscopic binary. So there is a partner star that's much, much closer than these two would suggest. It's about, I wrote it down here. Yeah, it has a no terrestrial telescope without it being one would easily resolve it. So we detect it using a spectroscope.
Sorry, can you just repeat that, Chris? We missed it. About
yeah, so I'm just
how
saying
close they
that.
are.
Just saying that we know it's a spectroscopic binary because we can detect the spectra of the two stars, but through a visual telescope, you could never resolve them. So yeah, so beware of things like that. When using stellarium for double stars, it's always wise to have a second resource to refer to, even a star catalog, or maybe a different app, because there's differences between. So just be aware of that. Now, there is a star near. Okay, I believe it's this one, that is actually a double star. So this is the star H1P. Let me just find it here. Maybe it's this one. Let me just find it this way. H1P 101 909. Yeah. So this is actually a double star. It's got a little 12.4 magnitude companion. In a telescope, you'd see the brighter primary and the second companion sitting down the lower left. Despite its sort of modest appearance, the star is actually 3,600 times more luminous than the sun, and it's about 1,300 light years away. So that's double star BU 288. All right, now let's get on and look at Rotanev. So Rotanev, it also is a very close binary. It actually has is splittable with amateur telescopes. Just put it here in the middle and split it up. See it coming apart. So this is actually a magnitude 4.1 and magnitude 5. Stars are a little bit, maybe 1.5 times the mass of the sun. They orbit each other once every 27 years. So you would, over time, you would see the relative positions of these two stars vary over time. The inclination of that orbit is about 61 degrees to 97 light years away. Now there is another star, Zeta, sitting up here. So Zeta Delfini is about 0.5 degree to the west, marking the Dolphin's fin. And it's a whitish star, magnitude 4.6. It's about 220 light years away. And in 2014, astronomers discovered a 55 times Jupiter's mass brown dwarf orbiting around that star, which is really interesting. Now, where you can grab an easy to see double star, the Dolphin's nose is star al-Salib or Gamma Delphini. In a backyard telescope, it's a really pretty double star, splits nicely. It's about a magnitude 4.3 orange gold primary and a magnitude 5.1 secondary star. A lot of reports that people see the second star as a greenish color, the way that the two complement one another. And so it's they're separated by 8.8 arc seconds, and it's a nice one to see. And the little star down here, just below the nose, it's actually the Struve 2725. So let me just bring up my bookmarks list here. We can dial onto these directly. All right. Struve 2725. Here we go. Yeah, so that's that one there. And that would also split relatively easily as well. So, this one has a nickname. Sometimes it's called the ghost double star. All right. So now down here we have, under the dolphin's tummy, we have the star al-Alkud. It has an orange tint. It's a K-class star. It's about 223 light years away. And from there, we've got another couple of orange stars that sort of head from here down the belly or the ball. So there's 10 Delphini, which is a K-class supergiant star. And we've got Theta Delfini down here. And some people think that the stars in the eyepiece around Theta resemble an asterism called the like the cowboy on the bucking bronco. I don't know. You'd have to take a look yourself. Don't zoom in too much. They say it's roughly about 1 degree by half a degree in size. So that would be about sort of that amount of sky would form that shape. I don't know, maybe this is his arm holding up his hat, this little group of stars up here, who knows? But give it a try and see if you find it. So Eta. So Eta is a, here, Eta is a white magnitude 4 star. And then down at the bottom, we have al-Dālfīn. So al-Dālfīn or Epsilon Delphini. The name al-Dolphin is supposed to mean the tail of the dolphin. This is a white A-class star, about 236 light years away. And that's easily seen with the unaided eye. Now, next brightest star in the constellation is not actually part of the dolphin shape itself. The star named Musica. Where's Musica here? So Musica is sitting here between Delphinus and Gliese, and this is a sort of a sun-like G6 class star. This one's known to host a 10 times Jupiter's mass, which has recently been named Arion. So that's the basic sort of bright set of stars in the constellation. I'll just stop for a second. How is the audio coming through okay?
Yep. Yeah. As long as you don't talk too fast, which you're doing fine with, we can hear you okay. I will let you know if we miss a huge chunk of information, but it hasn't happened a little bit. We did have a couple not related to this, but we had one about how does one load images to stellarium such as doubles. Correct me if I'm wrong. We went over that in our advanced stellarium episode. Did we not? Or
yeah, well, so let me just run through it really quickly.
Okay.
So one of the great things to do, yeah, is to confirm the positioning of the star catalogs by using basically the all sky or digital sky survey image that's available for the entire sky. And you can configure it so that it's available with a button down here called the DSS button. And the way you make sure that it's available is you go to your configuration window, go into your and make sure you got the check mark that says DSS survey. Okay. And that way, whenever you press this, I'll do it right now, you get a photographic background of the sky. Now, depending on how your internet works, it might load more quickly or more slowly. You tend to not to want to do this with the entire sky, but try to do it with a smaller patch. And then if you actually hit the letter S on the keyboard, you can have the, the plotted star positions disappear and just leave the all sky image underneath it and the labels. So yeah, hopefully that's clear to everybody.
Awesome.
Was there another question?
We had another question, but it was more about the dark sky parking location near Claremont, Ontario. Somebody was asking your viewing secrets around there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can come back to that.
We'll come back to that. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So let's sort of up the ante now and talk a little bit more about binoculars. Telescope targets you can get into. A few more nice double stars. So Struve 2664. Where's my Struve 2664? So this one's located over here. Now you can use a sky chart or an app like Sky Safari. You can, if you have trouble typing in the Struve code, which is the code we use for double stars, you can actually just type in the Hipparchus star number, HIP 100226. Apps will work fine with the hit number. Or you can come back to the video on YouTube and take note of the HD or one of the other numbers. I should mention that took all of the various targets in Delphinus in this bookmark set that I've made and exported it into an observing list that can be imported into your own stellarium if you're using an up-to-date version. And Samantha's going to post that on the show page.
Yes, I'm just posting it right now.
So Struve 2664 has a nice pair of sort of matched magnitude 8 stars that are separated by 2.8 degrees, or 2.8, 28 seconds, under not too much magnification. So that's where that sits. Then we have 2703, here we go. This one sitting up here between Rotanev and Zeta, so tucked up above and between the two of them. So that's easy to find. You can see this splits into a nice easy pair. Another, again, 25 arc seconds separation. And this is both about magnitude 8.4. So they're kind of another matched set. And then we have Auto Struve 213. Let's see, here's that one. So this one is located kind of off the nose of the Dolphin. So if you take the diamond of the Dolphin and sort of 1.5 times that, you get Auto Struve 213. It's actually two different brightnesses, but more widely separated. They're 71 arc seconds apart. So the magnitude 6.7, 9.2. So those are a few of the other good double stars. All right, some more really interesting things that you can find in the constellations. You can find a really very close star to our sun, and that's Gliese 795. So Gliese is one of the exoplanet, or one of the exoplanet searching catalogs. This one's otherwise known as HIP 101 955. So that will be 155. Stellarium has it designated as KUI 99. So this is a double star, magnitude 8.15. It's actually only 54 light years away. And actually, I'll go into this mode. If I jump ahead a few years, you can watch the star gradually move a little bit across the sky because it's a relatively nearby star. And we have W Delphini. So W Delphini is on the other end of the scale. It's 2,650 light years away, and it's one of those Algol type eclipsing binary star systems. So this varies from magnitude 9.7 to 13.3 every 4.8. the other day, and actually, let's see if I can open this light curve and share that with you. Here we go. No, it didn't work. It's okay. But if you go ahead and you type the HIP number into the aavso.org variable light curve plotter that we talked about last time, then you can plot yourself a light curve for that star.
I sent a link to the light curve plotter in the chat.
Excellent. Delphini. So this is what's known as a carbon star. So this star has evolved to the point where it's now using carbon. It shines with an extremely reddish orangish light, very distinctive in your telescope. Not too bright, magnitude 10.5, so it's not a very bright star. If you have a go-to telescope, you can easily find it that way. But you'll get that really intense orangey red color to it if you look that one up. And then al-Dālfīn, there's my al-Dālfīn here. So al-Dālfīn sits down here in the sort of bottom corner, not far from the tail. And this is a magnitude 7.6 Mira type variable star. So we talked about the star Mira in Cetus 2 sessions ago. And it's one of the type of stars that normally maintains a certain brightness. In this case, about magnitude 7.6. And then it dips every, let's see here, 2,800 days down to magnitude 13.8 out of sight. You're saying, well, Chris, why are you talking about a star in Aquilus as part of Delphinus? And that's because this star is one of these high proper motion stars, and only in the mid-90s did it cross the boundary into Aquila. So if I wind the time back, see if I can zoom in here so you can see it. You can see it. I'm winding time back. So the star has noticeably migrated out of Delphinus into Aquila. A couple cool fun things, another couple more asterisms. So we talked about the asterism around theta. There's another asterism down near this, down near NGC 7025, which is around here. So this is up here. And what we're seeing here are this little clump of more prominent stars. And the nickname of this one is the Dolphin's Diamonds, or they've also called it the toadstool. I think if you see the kind of curved line, it's an kind of a tilted toadstool with a cap, then the stem and the sort of feet at the bottom. So there's that one. And you don't want to zoom in on too much of that. Maybe 65x is just enough for that. And then last up is there's actually a Delphinus shaped asterism in Pegasus. Let me just find that one for you to look at. HIP 113 766. So I'm going to pop over to Pegasus. So here's the great square Pegasus. You've got the western arm of the square, edge of the square. Got the star Pegasus down here. That's the first discovered confirmed exoplanet back in the 90s. And then about a third of the way down the line between Ṣūrat and Markab, use your binoculars and you'll find this little mini Delphinus shape here. So it's just kind of a mini me. Not too far away. All right, I'll pause again. Any questions?
Any questions? Found the mini Delphinus really interesting, how we like to pull shapes that we already know in the same area. I do not see any questions coming up.
Okay.
Let's move on.
So let's go through a few of the deep sky objects. So, Delphinus is sitting here beside the Milky Way. The stellium's not really showing the stars very well because, of course, the moon will be in the bright sky tonight. If I advance a couple of nights, I could probably get the sky to look a little bit brighter. That's okay. So there's the Milky Way. So we're kind of in that neighborhood, although it isn't heavily populated with DSOs. Let's bring up the list here. We have, so this is the Messiers, the NGC, and the Eyepiece in the constellation. You can see not too many. I'll just turn off the atmosphere a little bit so you can get a little more sense of it. All right, but there are a couple of noteworthy ones. So, we've got our Messier list of 110 objects, and then Sir Patrick Moore, he created his own list of another 110 objects that weren't Messier's that he thought were worthy of attention. And so Delphinus has 2 of his objects in it. First up here is NGC 7006. So this is a magnitude 10 globular cluster, sits off the tip of the nose of the dolphin. It's small though, it's only 1.5 arc seconds in diameter. Let me just put it in the telescope here. That's a simulated view of the 26 millimeter colossal through a 6-inch Newtonian reflector telescopes. You can see it's a really small little fuzz patch. But that's because it's so far away. It's 135,000 light years away, which is, 8 times farther away than most of the globular clusters that we're used to being impressed by. So it's one of the most remote globular clusters known in our own galaxy. So that's NGC 7006 or Caldwell 42. And then down at the other end of the dolphin, we've got NGC 6934. This one's Caldwell 47. And this one's actually relatively bright. It's 2.8. It's a good size. Here's the view in the telescope. You get a nice brighter patch of sky, a brighter patch of stars in there. And when you're looking at this, at these 2 globular clusters, again, we always mention about noticing their density profiles from the center. So this is actually a type 8 class globular cluster, so it has a very low density. But I noted that it had a very interesting shape when I looked at it. I'll just bring up the deep sky image for you here. Bring it up, yeah. So it had, this field star on the western side might make it seem more of an oval shape than it actually is. But and I noticed that it had a very interesting shape, lots of interest to it. So that's one to look for. In terms of the deep sky, we've got the Blue Flash Nebula. So the Blue Flash Nebula is a planetary nebula, and it's located up here at the top of the boundary, off the tip of the arrow of Sagitta. And this is a magnitude 11 planetary nebula. We just put it in the eyepiece view for you. So you can see it's tiny, so you'll want to zoom in, magnify that. Let's just put a stronger eyepiece in. That's looking at it at 150 power. So you're starting to get the shape of it. So this one is, it's about 1.5 arc minutes in diameter. It's elongated. So I'll bring back the other view here, zoom in. So another telescope, you'll see the part, but if you have a bigger telescope or take a longer exposure, you'll catch the 2 fainter lobes on either end of that one. So that's the planetary nebula, the Blue Flash. There's another planetary nebula down below here, NGC 6891. This is smaller, but it's actually brighter. It's magnitude 10.5. So you'd really need to magnify it a lot more, but you could certainly, it would be within reach of most telescopes if you can use your go-to or find location of it. And again, for either of these planetary nebulas, if you've got an oxygen 3 filter or a nebula, brighten up with respect to the sky around. This one also has a nice center. And last up, I was going to recommend that, especially the imagers, if they want to go for the NGC 6928 set. Let's see if I can find those here. 6928. So down here off the bottom of the tail of the dolphin, there's a galaxy cluster. And if I bring up the deep sky survey image, you can get a sense of the grouping. So you've got a really pretty field with 3 different galaxies or more. There's a 4th and 5th one in here. There's some smaller ones that you can pick up in a long exposure. And there'll be a lesser target that'll be worth chasing. All right. So those are the best of the Dolphin. I mean, it's a small constellation, so it doesn't take long to get through it, but hopefully you've been inspired to check out a few things.
We have a question. Can I observe these objects with a 90mm telescope and a 25mm eyepiece, or are they too dim, small for that?
Yes, you should be able to see them with a small telescope on a dark night. The galaxies, no. So the galaxies I showed you at the end, those would be strictly for a bigger telescope, or if somebody wanted to take a photograph, long exposure photograph. But the 2 globular clusters and the planetary nebulae would be within reach of small. For sure.
Thank you. And if people have any questions, feel free to put in the chat. I was just going to do a quick show. I was wondering if you can show them how to utilize that list that we have uploaded to the Insider's Guide main page, and how they can upload it into their new edition of Stellarium.
Yes, let's try this. So let's see. I'll try doing it from here first. I haven't tried this yet, so let's just see if this works.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay. That's worth finding out. Okay, no, it's not here. So what you do is you need to go into your configuration window. You need to go into your extra here, your settings, and make sure you've got check mark enabled for observing lists down here. And what that will do is it'll put a button on the toolbar, the horizontal toolbar, for the observing list. So bring this up. Click on that. And then you should be able to, let's see, new list. Import a list. I don't know if you can see this too well, but there's an import list option here. Let's really go back. Oh, this is more than one list. No. Error here is no list or more than one list. Okay, so it's live. I didn't check it before, but I'll sort it out and make sure that we upload a version that works before too long.
Perfect.
So
I'm just going to, we have another question, but I'm going to steal your screen for a second. Chris, I just want to give people and where they will be able to find it. I've had a few emails about even where you can find a list of past episodes. This is all at Insider's Guide, ras.ca/Insider's Guide. So if you're ever wondering what's the upcoming list of episodes, we have scheduled them, the description, and then all of our past episodes are here. And we'll be moving this one, our upcoming one, where we have the list there, but we will update it to make sure it works. And this is, it looks like this file, just make sure you download this file. It's a JSON, but this is how Google Drive use it. And then what we do after all the episodes are done, we put a link to where you can rewatch them with the description and when we aired it. You can also, it's very helpful. I like to control F this page if I'm looking to see if we have talked about a topic before, or I'm looking for a resource. So this is a great place to see all of our information. And if you're looking for any of the links we share in our episodes, you can go to the YouTube video and it will be in the description box of the YouTube video. So with that, we have another question about what is the benefit of an oxygen 3 filter?
Oh, good question. So most nebulas emit light at specific wavelengths in the spectrum. And it works out that a lot of planetary nebulas are bright in the part of the spectrum emitted by I guess, triply ionized oxygen, which is called the oxygen 3 filter. Wait, singly would be one. It's doubly or triply, I've forgotten off the top of my head. But so you can buy filters called oxygen 3 filters. Let me see if I can bring up a profile. Oxygen. Let's do it this way. Unfortunately, if you just do it that way, you get medical and other things. We want the astronomy type. So it's this. Okay, let's bring this up and share. Okay. So what you're doing is you're actually buying a filter that actually only allows through certain colors of the spectrum and the ones that are generally emitted by the objects that you're looking for. And so that allows you to darken the sky around it and diminish the light, the regular light of the stars around the object, and brighten the nebulosity of a planetary nebula or another type of nebula in the sky. So if you've got if you've got a telescope and you're looking at even the Orion Nebula or some of the upcoming nice objects this winter, UHC or ultra high contrast filter or an oxygen 3 filter will be the way to go to brighten those up and make them stronger in your telescope. The O3 is kind of a limited, so it only worries about these certain wavelengths. A UHC filter would give you this plus the other band, so you get more light through your telescope, and so the nebula is even a little bit brighter. So hopefully that's somewhat clear. Want to answer the question about the observers?
Yes, you can go ahead and do that now. So they're looking for a dark sky parking lot near Claremont, Ontario, or places near the GTA you can see.
Okay. So sorry for all our non-GTA viewers, but let me just bring this up. So here I've got the Greater Toronto area. You've got Aurora and Newmarket up north of Toronto, the Lake Ontario down here. And as you head northeast, the light pollution reduces and the sky improves, and you can do the same thing by heading to the northwest. U of T's, Toronto Center's Car Observatory is up in the north and western area. And then you may have heard of the that's heading east of Toronto and getting to the dark area. And if you want to do a shorter drive, you can head up to this place called Glen Major Forest. So this is about, less than an hour's drive. Certainly if you're already living in the northern part of the city, you can get there, depending on if you want to use the highway or back roads, within about 40 minutes or so. And essentially where it is it's on Westney Road. So here we have Brock Road coming north from the 401 or the 407, running through the town of Claremont, and then head up to the Pickering-Uxbridge town line, which is this road here. And when you get to the T-junction, you can head north. And this is basically the extension of Westney Road, but by now you're in Uxbridge instead of Pickering, so it's not named that anymore. But this star, where I've got a star on the map, that is the Glen Major Forest area. This forested area is popular for hikers and day use, and then at nighttime, just bring up the satellite view here. So here's the Glen Major parking lot. Nice and wide open, hardly any trees around it, lots of good vistas to the east, east, north, and south. And you're in a bit of a bowl, so there are no artificial lights from the city visible. So when you leave Glen Maid and you start driving south, press ridge, and then suddenly you're seeing the lights flickering. But in this spot, it's nice and dark. So we can see the Milky Way from there. It's really only, as I say, about 40 minutes from Toronto, and it's great, lots of room. You'll often find astronomers and rascals there, so it's a good place to go.
Thank you for that. That's a good tip for our GTA Southwestern Ontario folks. Does anybody have any more questions about what we've talked about today so far? Because if not, we have our last Messier minutes. And also at the end of this, Chris, I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about how we can use these resources that we've given over the past 10-ish months, and how people can use it going forward as well after we go through these objects for the Messier minutes.
Sure, absolutely. So if you've been with us all along, you know that we actually started Messier minutes with the autumn objects, and so we're ending with the last 4 that we couldn't cover then because I guess we were doing it at a time of the year where they were just not visible for us. So here we are wrapping up the journey, and we're actually a little bit ahead of the game in terms of the best nights to view these, because these are kind of still climbing the eastern sky. So you may not want to jump them right away, maybe in another couple of weeks. We've got a bright moon sky this week, so give it a week or two until the moon disappears, and then you can tackle these last few objects in our list. So first up, we've got Messier 52. So Messier 52 is sitting here nice and high in Cassiopeia. It's called the Salt and Pepper Cluster. It's a big, prominent open cluster. Let's zoom in a little bit here. It's about 16 arc minutes across, so that's half the moon's diameter in the sky. It's situated between this naked eye star and actually the Nebula, for those that are doing some imaging in this area. So it's kind of parked right between those two extremes, the easy to see and the hard to see object. You can also get at it by doubling the line. So you've got your W of Cassiopeia. If you take that end of the W from here to here and kind of double it, then you'll end up right in the right spot. So from Ṣūrat up to Calf, and then do the same again. You can easily see this one in binoculars. Any telescope will work. If you've got a larger aperture telescope, then you're going to be able to pick up more of the smaller, fainter members of the cluster. Telescope, the count was around 100 stars. You should be out there. We're asking you to count them, but they're there. So see how many you can see. So notice its shape. Notice the degree of compactness of the cluster. Is it dense in the middle? Is it loose? How does it sit distinctly from the surrounding star field? It's about 500 light years away. And there are actually some brighter stars that'll catch your eye, things like this one, but they're in the foreground. So they're closer than 500 light. So they're actually not part of the cluster, but they're in the same line of sight. So that's M52. Then heading down. So straight down in the evening time, we could get into M103. M103 is basically, it's a degree or so from the star Rukba, which is the shallower V of the two V's of Cassiopeia. And one of the ways, the rules of thumb you can use to remember that is just connect the bottoms of the two V's. So Ṣūrat to Rukba, and then keep going by a finger's width, basically. This one you can see in any size of a telescope or binoculars. It's a really distant open cluster. It's about 9,786 light years away, so it's really far. That's made it sort of smaller. It's actually the last entry in Messier's original list. So he came up with 103, he and his colleagues, and 104 to 110 were created by Helen Sawyer Hogg and Owen Gingrich and a few other people that found objects that were in the notes that they felt should have been mentioned or should have been added to Messier's list. So they're modern additions, but 103 was the original end of the list. You want to note the star colors inside. There's actually a neat pattern of brighter stars in the center of the cluster. It almost reminded me of traffic lights because they're different colors, but they're kind of in a row. You can see what you think for yourself. When you're in the area, don't forget to look around. Look at all these other open clusters that are in the area. This one up here. This one here, the one near Phi, that's the owl cluster, dragonfly cluster we've talked about before. And then we've got, I think it's this one that's in beyond is coming out. Stay tuned for that. All right, so that's 103. Now we've got M76. So planetary nebulas are always a little trickier because they're not so prominent, a little bit harder to see. This one is one of the more challenging Messier objects because it's fairly faint, magnitude 10, pretty small. It does need a telescope to see it, so you're not going to get away with binoculars, probably. I think I've seen reports that some people have in big binoculars, but really telescope. The way I located it was I located it between basically Almach and Navi, which is the top of the middle of the W of Cassiopeia. So it's almost exactly halfway between them, but a little bit to the lower left here, a little bit to the south. Again, you're going to want probably to wait, these last couple, you're going to want to wait till later evening, till they climb a little bit higher to see them. As I said before, if you have an oxygen 3 filter, that'll brighten it up. Let me just give you the eyepiece view here. So this is zooming in. It's called the male because it's got kind of that apple core-ish shape and then a fainter halo around it that looks like the rest of the apple. So it's kind of a mini-me version of the dumbbell. Other nicknames, the cork, the barbell, the butterfly. You can see here. It's about 2,400 light years away. And last up of all, Messier 34 sitting down here. Its nickname is the spiral cluster. It's nearly as wide as the full moon in size. Large enough to see easily in binoculars. Any telescope, of course, but don't magnify it too much because it is so big. You don't want to, miss the forest for the trees. It's about 1,500 light years away. It's the 7th closest Messier to us of all. And what you want to do is you can count the major stars and then see how many of the smaller, fainter members of the cluster that you can add into the tally. And note some colors. I noted some differences in the star colors. You can look for asterisms and shapes and sort of whimsical. Astronomers look at these clusters and imagine some scene or scenario or creature, and then dub them with a name that then he puts in his books. So that's it. That's our Messier minutes. We're done.
Oh wow! I can't believe we've gone through 110 objects so far. We did have a question about M27. Is M27 the big dumbbell nebula visible right now too?
Yeah, it's gone over here.
And what is the best way to view it?
So M27 you can spot the arrow shape of Sagitta in the sky with your unaided eyes. If you can find those, then all you need to do is kind of take the last few stars, make a right angle and jump up by about almost that amount. So it sort of sits at right angles to that. Vulpecula is not a very helpful constellation, but you can certainly use these. In fact, I'll just give you some binocular circles so you can see this. if you put the last couple of stars of Sagitta into the binoculars, then Messier 27 will be in the same field of view. In fact, if you put them at the edge, it'll be near the middle, like this. This one is, I think we said it was, any telescope will do on a dark night. I'm not sure binoculars would work. If you have an oxygen 3 filter, that'll brighten it up, or a UHC filter that'll brighten it up. So yes, that is visible for
Sorry, we missed that last part about after you said yes, definitely is visible.
Yeah, so I was saying that it's near the summer triangle, and even though it's called the summer triangle, we can still see those stars into December because of those early sunsets.
Thank you. Does anybody have any more questions about Messiers that we've talked about today? If you come up with them, throw them in the chat, we'll ask them. So now that we're done, and this is something I was thinking about as I was putting together the last of the Messier guides, we have separated them out based on weeks, particularly for 2022, of when to view things and how to view things. And but we also often see lists also listed in fall, winter, spring, summer, which I think we've generally separated them out into those as well. But if I was planning for the next year, so 2023, how would I use these resources and our episodes, as well as maybe some other lists, to plan my observing schedule with what we've done?
Yeah, so generally speaking, the order that we've covered them in would be the order that you would tackle them in a cyclical sense. So whatever time of year you happen to be in, find the Messier minutes around and start from there on. And then know that you're going to, when you get to the end of that, you're going to loop back to the first in the list, right? And just sort of complete the circle that way. But you can definitely pick up our sessions wherever you happen to be. And we've tried to do it logically so that, we were actually worrying about whether the was right or not when we did them. So there'll be some minor differences, but since we were doing them about every 2 weeks, then it should work out for you. A couple of tips though, if you're doing the Messiers, winter astronomy is not always fun. So it's possible to do a lot of things like do winter targets by staying up really, really late in the autumn, because those constellations.
Or getting up super early in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm
not the alarm. I'm a stay up late guy.
Same, except when I'm wondering if people in their commute, if with the skies getting darker and we haven't gone through the change in time yet, I've been seeing Orion in the morning when I get up in some of the winter constellations. So if we were going to do this, so say we have a February 1st and a February 15th episode, then we could just kind of, if we're observing in February, we can look at those lists and March and kind of go through that way. While the exact dates may not be perfect because of the moon, we can take the general guidelines of when we observe those and go from there.
Mainly 8 or 10 targets per session, so it wouldn't be an overwhelming amount to look. So grab the program for a month ahead of time, as you say, and just be able to start planning your approach.
Perfect.
And then you should plug your the web page you've made, right?
Yes, I will plug that right now. I've already linked it in the chat. So what I might do is, to make things easier, is I might bunch them all up into one document and group them into months to make life easier for you all. And let us know if you have any comments, if you've been using it. You can send me emails at outreach@ras.ca, how you'd want these to improve if we did it for another observing series. But this has been, I've very much enjoyed the Messiers, and I hope you all have as well and have learned some stuff.
Fantastic.
Thank you all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't normally like to plug books, but somebody just mentioned John Reed in the chat. And of course, John and I collaborated on the 110 Things to See with a Telescope book. So we did logically order the objects in that book so you could pick up where you need to and just run through the program to the end and then restart at the beginning to pick up the rest.
I think a combination between all those resources, and you'll all be great for doing the Messier Marathon. Now I just have to convince myself to get out there and start doing it as well. I threw the chat, I threw the link to the book in the chat.
Fantastic. Yeah. A lot of these you can see with binoculars. So don't be put off if all you have are binoculars. They're fantastic to use, and you can get a lot of the Messiers done with binoculars.
And as always, we really encourage, whether you're just doing a Messier for your marathon list for your own observing, just a reminder, this all is spawned out of our observing programs we have at the RASC, and the Messier is, I think, our oldest one. And if you record all your observations, use those observing log charts that are attached to every single guide I created, and write down your scene conditions, just what you saw. The whole list is there, and submit them to our observing committee. You can get a pin and a certificate. And the very first episode 0, as I called it, we did a episode with our observing committee chair, Blake, who talks about all of the different things you need to know when submitting your observations or getting an observing certificate. So that resource is there for you as well.
Fantastic. Well, I'll try to get my internet fixed for next time so that we can have a clean, smooth approach, but appreciate everybody's patience with us.
Thank you all. And thank you all for joining us each week. We love having you all on, and this is why we keep doing this.
So next time, the plan for next time is to do that deep look into the Stellarium mobile app, which will be fun. And then after that, we've got the Charles coming on for the Asterisms project, and on from there.
We have a great bunch of episodes coming up, so keep joining us every couple weeks. Thank you all.
Well, thanks, everybody.